Yes, Palakji. So coming back to question number 1, to process the input validation and boundary conditions. So can you tell me what is your approach in the case of internet banking?
Ma'am, I considered the text fields and the inputs would what would be taken from the user,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are asking for the account number and the
Mm-hmm.
name of the account holder, and if
Mm-hmm.
the fields are not set up like there are no boundaries, like the size is not set, and you can add any data. So in that case I consider that it might go to the boundary vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
so might initiate the buffer overflow attack with the same. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I consider that input validation at that point should be important. So to set up the boundaries of the, like if we are asking for the account holder name,
Mm-hmm.
so the size of the text field should be limited to 30, say, and not like it should be set and not unset. So
Okay, so how exactly the internet banking is going to change the way? So if you do compare the internet banking or say online shopping cart, let's talk about these two things. So how this input validation and the boundary conditions are going to be different for both the applications?
uh, ma'am, if we are talking about the cart thing in
Uh-huh.
shopping application,
Mm-hmm.
then we can add. We are not restricted to add items in a cart, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for a banking application, we have a particular domain which is limited to one particular user.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, validation should be, I guess, both for the validation, both the application differ in some cases as they both are different. So
Okay, so why it is said to be that every input is untrusted?
ma'am, because inputs can be modified easily by inspecting the application.
Mm-hmm.
If there is any weak boundary, weak endpoint or exit point, so ma'am, that could be altered easily. So inputs can be untrusted.
Okay. Coming back to question number 2, to check the access control and the session hijacking. How this is going to be controlled in the case of internet banking?
Ma'am, I took rule-based access control for this, but it could be attacked because firewall would firewall. If we take firewall as a rule for this,
Mm-hmm.
so as we'll have rules for filtering the traffic,
Mm-hmm.
but but it could be hijacked. The session, the firewall could be broken, the attacks could be there also.
Mm-hmm.
So if it happens, then the session could be hijacked and the transmission can be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, access controls should be there, and to prevent session hijacking, but also it's possible.
Fine. So when you take care about the, for example, the what do you mean by the session hijacking? Can you tell me?
Ma'am, it's like when we are transmitting some data from one end to other end, we have a session limited, which is confined to us, and it is domain specific. Like
So
if
how do I
I'm
take the confinement of that particular session?
Yes, ma'am.
How do I take care about the confinement of that session?
Ma'am, a session has its credentials and its name, its time of existence, and so wherever it is there. Like the session, if I have a session built on some application, then it is for that same application and not some other application. I'm not able to tell you, but
Fine. So let me tell you how exactly you are going to put that. Whenever you say the session confinement, so session confinement is going to be created by the way the authorization is going to perform for that particular user. By the way, the access is being granted for that particular user. Are you getting Palakjit?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So your entire authorization scenario or authorization background is responsible to create the session for one particular user. And that's how that authorization is going to enable the confinement for that session. And that's how the token is being created, Palakjit. And that token is responsible to cross check that whether the session is into its own confined domain or not. Are you getting
Yes, ma'am.
Palakjit?
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pavit Singh, are you there? Pavit Singh, Pranay Khurana, Rohit, are you there?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Who is it?
Ma'am, this is Ritik. Ma'am, I wasn't able to give my Viva in the last
Fine,
lecture.
fine. Let me just finish with this. Yeah.
Okay.
Rohit, are you there?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Rohit. Yeah. Yes, Rohit. So you have in the question number one, you have said the device fingerprinting, password, and lots of things you have said. Yeah. So can you just tell me what it's all about, Rohit?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so, ma'am, there are, ma'am, certain devices, like nowadays, even our phones have the fingerprint and face ID, like,
Mm-hmm.
and ma'am, all these inputs that we make, ma'am, these face IDs and fingerprints are basically just like, they are a shortcut, of uh, basically just inputting those things, but, and they are in their own way, they are encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, how do you take care about the device fingerprinting? When I say the input validation as well as the boundary conditions, how to take care about the device fingerprinting in this case, or how the device fingerprinting is really important in this case?
Oh, ma'am, so basically, our fingerprint is a unique ID or a characteristic in itself, right? So,
Uh-huh.
ma'am, that can be that is being used as an encryption, like, and not necessarily like every user remembers their credentials or has them written 24/7, right? So basically,
Mhm.
these credentials are kind of a shortcut, and they are encrypted in their own way, as I said,
Okay.
like to just input the data in the required place.
Mm-hmm. Fine. So you have mentioned about the Trojan attack. So do you mean to say the
Yes.
Trojan attacks are going to affect the boundary conditions?
Ma'am, not exactly, I would say the boundary condition, but then, ma'am, as in, like,
Rohit, your voice is not at all audible clearly.
oh, ma'am, now is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Go
ma'am,
ahead.
actually, the mic was far, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Oh, ma'am, actually, the Trojan attack can be
Take mic
for,
nearby. Take mic nearby,
oh,
Rohit.
yes, ma'am, now is it okay?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, ma'am, I was saying, ma'am, the Trojan thing, Trojan attacks is more for the input based thing only, ma'am, instead of the boundary condition. Like I don't see the boundary condition affecting the Trojan thing, like, because, ma'am, on the Trojan attack, the best example I could give you was the keylogger, and I have mentioned that over there, right? So, ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
like, no matter what the user types and no matter how long or short or whatever characters it has in it, the hacker can can get a track of whatever he's typing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I meant by the Trojan attack.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. Coming back to question number two. So you have said that the session hijacking, in spite of authentication mechanism, So shoulder surfing, screen capturing. So can you just enable and how it is going to affect the internet banking?
Oh yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so actually, like basically, ma'am, authentication mechanisms are to make the banking portal in our case a little more secure, right, ma'am? Actually, more secure. So they like there are pins and passwords to get into your to your account using your credentials, right? So, ma'am, these session hijacking, in spite of the authentication mechanism, the ma'am, some of the simpler examples that I've mentioned are shoulder surfing and screen capturing. So I mean, shoulder surfing, as you know, if somebody is accessing their bank details somewhere in public, but he does not know that somebody might be looking at them over, and that is exactly shoulder surfing. So, ma'am, that's why I mentioned that.
Okay. What do
Yes.
you mean by screen capturing here?
Oh, ma'am, screen capturing is like, oh, ma'am, I don't know if you're aware of that, ma'am. There's this script in Kali, ma'am, which I've even used once, ma'am. So you can put it in the user's ma'am device, so that you get access to the complete device, and ma'am, that helps you to even capture screen of whatever he's using. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned screen capturing, like, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be a possibility when he is logging into his bank details, right? So
Okay.
that's why I mentioned that.
Fine. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Good going ahead. Yeah. So
Thank you,
when
ma'am.
you take care about the backdoor attacks and the trapdoor attacks, so how do you differentiate between these two?
Ma'am, both I think are more or less the same only, ma'am. They're an internal attack, like, oh, ma'am. So somebody from the organization who might be having access to the organizations, like the people who have, say, an account in that organization. Like, I can, for the best example I can give you is, ma'am, a relationship manager of a bank. So
Mhm.
with my bank, I have a relationship manager, and he has my account information, right? So
Mhm.
maybe he could use that against me. So that's why I mentioned
Okay.
this.
So there is a difference when you take care about, and the objective is also different. Rohit, just do take care about this.
Okay, okay,
When
ma'am.
you take care about the backdoor attacks, generally the backdoor is being created so that remotely the developer can take care about that particular application. Fine. The attacks are going to happen onto the many different kind of, so backdoor attacks are going to be generally internal or could be sometimes external, which may lead to the
Yes, ma'am.
trapdoor attacks as well.
Okay,
Fine.
okay,
So
ma'am.
yeah, so the reason behind that is because if the person is aware of, okay, the maintenance, it backdoor attacks are always called the maintenance hook. Now why it is called the maintenance hook? Because
Ma'am, what did you say? What is it called? Maintenance?
maintenance hook.
Okay, hook.
Okay. So
Yes,
the
ma'am.
reason behind that particular thing is because the entries are open for remote to enable the remote working, you can say, so that the system can be developed or the software can be developed. And during this particular COVID-19 pandemic, this is the major thing which is creating a problem because
Yes,
everyone
ma'am.
is working remotely, and to enable the application, to access the application, you need to really bother about that which particular port or which particular backdoor entry you are opening up for working, and are you closing it or not.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Yeah, so this is the major, and the trapdoor is going to be generally done by the external attackers. You are
Yes, ma'am.
trapping that particular, so there is a, see, the objective backdoor is going to change into the trapdoor, but the backdoors are generally called as a maintenance. The objective of both the things are different.
Ma'am, pretty much the same, but not exactly the same.
uh, Not, objectives are totally different, Rohit. Just take care about that.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Back
Yes, ma'am.
doors, the reason is because if the front door is not available, I can make an entry from the back door.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Correct.
And the entry is going to be like that, that okay, since I'm the employee of that particular company, I can take care about that. And when I'm not going to be loyal with that company, I can easily go and hack the system. But when you take care about the trapdoor, it is getting done by the external attackers.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Fine? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Coming back to question number 3, can you just explore whatever you have written?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, basically, ma'am, these are exploitable configuration weaknesses, ma'am. Just network. I mean, the configuration errors in the banking application, ma'am. Like it could be, ma'am, validation, lack of validation, input validation, and
Mm-hmm.
ma'am, other things could be like the unsecured user accounts and like all the things I have mentioned, ma'am, over there. Ma'am, I could explain. I'll tell you, ma'am. Oh. Ma'am, the system accounts is easily ma'am guessed password. Ma'am, that's like the guessing password or like ma'am the brute force thing only, ma'am.
Fine, fine.
Yes,
Okay. So when you go with the lack of encryption and the remote access control, what does it mean?
ma'am, basically, ma'am, something like two-factor authentication.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, that's
So
all I can say for this. I was not actually too sure about this question.
fine. So lack of encryption means you are actually taking care about the, the transmission of data in the plain text. You're not
Oh,
bothered
yes, ma'am. Yes,
about
ma'am.
the visibility of that particular data to the outside world. You
Yes,
are
ma'am.
just a confidentiality you are actually compromising in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you, ma'am.
Satvik, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, Satvik. So, what do you mean by I'm going to go through the question number one? So, when you take care about the boundary condition for the question number one, with the example asked, how the conditions are going to affect your system?
Yeah, so actually in the name I have written very less. So in the name actually it checks for all the that it should not be alphanumeric. That is one of the conditions to be checked. And it has to be from A to Z. Smaller and bigger characters are only allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, validation checks can be implemented and implemented through regular expression that is there. And for password, it is to check if it is in like an 8 character length. Length is more than 8 characters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a number
But
and
this
it's a
is the
letter
input
and all
validation.
that.
These are not the
Uh,
boundary
uh,
conditions.
uh, yeah, so boundary conditions would be in the customer number actually.
Mm-hmm.
The the account where like customer number जो रहता है ना account number.
Mm-hmm.
So that उसमें क्या रहेगा कि there is going to be a starting of the digits would contain the bank IF some code would it would contain that would
Mm-hmm.
denote that this is an Axis Bank number account number or it is any other bank account number, and
Mm-hmm.
in the last it would contain the branch.
Mm-hmm.
So like that we can check if it is a valid one or not.
Fine. Now,
Then
yeah, go ahead.
then yeah, we can then check the card details also when the person is going for internet banking.
Okay. To mitigate the session hijacking or to reduce the session hijacking, what are the things I need to take care in the authentication mechanism?
So yeah, in the authentication mechanism, a variable session IDs is essential.
Mm-hmm.
So
What do you mean
and
by variable session ID here?
so variable session ID basically means that don't keep static session IDs. So when a user
I did
logs
not
in,
understand. What do you mean by static and the variable session IDs?
yeah, I'll explain.
Yeah.
So when a user logs in, so
Mm-hmm.
he is allotted a session ID, supposing.
Mm-hmm.
So after he logs in, supposing he goes to log in and he goes to the home page after that. So now he
Mm-hmm.
wants to go from the home page to another page.
Mm-hmm.
Then a new session ID has to be generated
Mm-hmm.
for going like to the next page. So that's variable session ID. Ki, for every page you create a new session ID and that session ID is dependent on the old session ID.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And static session ID is keeping the session ID same for all the pages.
Mm-hmm. Fine. Okay. Mhm. So, do you mean to say that if I'm authorized to 10 different services, so for those 10 different services, I'm going to have 10 different session IDs?
Yes, and they would have different expiry dates also.
Fine, fine. Now, when you take care about the internet banking for the dynamic session ID, do you think so it is going to be good for the internet banking?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any performance, anything, any way by which you can say no, 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 this is not good for it.
Uh, Keeping variable session IDs would actually put a little load on the database.
Fine.
Yeah.
Database. How?
Or the session ID tracker as well.
Okay. So do you mean to say you are storing the session ID into the persistent storage?
Mm, yeah, yeah. To make it concrete, you have to store it right.
Yeah. So let me first have this particular thing, Satvik. Storing session ID into the persistent storage is going to create a different kind of problems altogether. The reason is because I really do not know how the persistent storage is working. Are you getting me what I'm trying to tell you? So the persist, when you say is the data is encrypted into the persistent storage or not, that I'm not aware of. What is the physical location for the persistent storage? What if that physical location is quite prone to the different kind of crime, you can say the more, or it is going to have more crime ratio as compared to the other location? It is quite possible, isn't it, Satvik?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we never store. The reason behind that is, just hold on for a second. Yeah. So the reason behind this particular not to use the persistent storage, because whenever the any query is going to go for the database to get the session, the database is, the retrieval as well as the storage in the database is quite the performance heavy part.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
So generally what we do is we store the session ID into the some normal, you can say, I do not know whether you have heard this thing or not. There is a service which is named as a memcache. Are you aware of memory cache? Fine.
No, 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 ma'am.
Yeah, so there is a memcache D service, and while you are transmitting the data from one system to another system, the session ID which is being created is stored into the memcache D. Are you getting my point? And this memcache D, so as soon whatever the the tokens are being generated or whatever the session IDs are being generated, for that particular valid period, it is going to be stored into the memcache D. And once the time is done, the new session ID is going to be generated. So just take care about, never ever use the persistent storage, even if someone asks you that, because you cannot guarantee that how the data is being stored. You're trying to store in a persistent storage, but what are all about the security as well as the privacy? How can you take care about this confidentiality as well as the integrity? Are you getting Satvik?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this is the thing where what we need to focus on. Fine, Satvik?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
And anything else?
No, no, Satvik. Thanks a lot. Uh, Saima, are you there? Saima? Shubit Kulshrestha?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, Shubit. Let me open yours. Yes. So can you elaborate question number 2 for the internet banking, Shubit?
Just a second, ma'am. I'm opening my document as
Yeah.
well. So, ma'am, in this question, we talked about access control and session hijacking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think the major reason for session hijacking is, cross-site scripting help us to, steal session cookies, which can
Mm-hmm.
lead into session hijacking.
Mm-hmm.
Session hijacking means active session that can be accessed by, any malicious user, and that the malicious user can, misuse it in future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all has been discussed in question number two.
Fine. Yeah. So can you tell me more elaborate the answer to this particular question?
Uh, ele- okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I've used the question number two. You have written a quite small, so that's why I'm asking because you haven't mentioned how exactly the session ID is going to be created and okay, which particular authentication access control mechanism you are going to use. You have said the discretionary. There is no manage access control. Shubit, it is the mandatory access control.
Sorry,
Fine.
ma'am. I will correct
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it is not the manage, and then there is going to be the role based access control. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. I will correct it. Uh, Ma'am, what's the question again?
Yes, I'm sorry. There is a power cut at my end, so lost the internet connection. Yeah. Yes, Shubhit. So, can you tell me that which one should be using?
Ma'am, can you, be clear at your question? I
Yeah. So you have mentioned the discretionary mandatory access control as well as the role-based access control, isn't it, Shubhit? So, can
Yes.
you just tell me that what is the difference between these three? You can say,
Uh,
and how do you decide that which one to use in the internet banking?
Ma'am, I'm not sure about this.
Come on, you can just try, Shubhit.
Ma'am, I can try.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
go ahead.
there are many implements of Mac, that is, you said, managed access control,
It's a mandatory access control, not the
mandatory access
management.
control.
Yeah.
And for instance, there is a Unix system,
Uh-huh.
mostly uses, direct access control, but the root account. Hello,
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Shubhit.
ma'am. I'm really not sure about my answer, to be honest.
Shubhit, until unless you discuss, I cannot correct you.
Ma'am, I think according to me, RBAC should be used in banking systems.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, you are going good. Yeah, why the RBSC use?
Ma'am, because someone is attempting to access information can only access that data which is necessary for their role.
Mm-hmm. Fine.
So,
So if
like,
I say that the RBSC of the RBAC is going to be used to take care about the different kind of roles in the bank. For example, if I'm working as a, I need to take care about, customer's passbook update, for example. Fine.
yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to have the different kind of roles. So if I'm taking care about the different kind of investment plans in the banking, I'm going to have the different kind of roles. If I'm a manager of a particular bank, I'm going to have the different kind of roles. So do
Ma'am,
you mean to say that RBAC is going to be used in the different kind of roles?
ma'am, I think that the specific information will be shared to specific roles and thus making less chaotic system.
Fine, good. And what about the what you can say is individual user? For example, I am a customer of a bank. Which particular role I must be having?
Ma'am, you can have a normal role that's just consumer or customer.
Customer. But if I am a customer and you are also a customer and we both are having the same role, so I can see your data and you can see my data, isn't it?
Ma'am, in that case, we'll have authentication mechanism coming in. No?
Okay, what do you mean by that? Can you just elaborate, Shubhit?
Authentication mechanism is basically, ma'am, default authentication mechanism in general is password, which is
Okay.
largely used. And then it basically authenticates if the credentials and if the user is genuine or not. It just
Okay, so do you think so, Shubhit, that you can give the answer to the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine, Shubhit. Yeah. Now, you have written that what is the boundary testing. So, can you elaborate more on this?
Ma'am, boundary testings are done to check the buffer overflow. If buffer overflow happens, then system will crash.
Okay. So, boundary testing generally we do, Shubhit, to take care about that. If you do remember in the last semester, you must have studied the different kind of testing techniques. So, one was equivalent class partitioning. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
into the equivalence class partitioning, there was only one particular party. You can choose any of the value to check whether the particular test is getting verified or not, or getting validated or not. Exactly the same thing when you take care about the boundary conditions. The boundary is going to, whatever the input you are having, for that
Yes.
particular input, you are also always going to have the upper maximum or minimum or lower and upper bound. Fine. So you are some of, if you do remember in the black box testing, you must have studied about it. And into that, what
I
happens?
know the definition of boundary testing. That's
Yeah. So if you do remember, sometimes it happens that in some of the cases, the boundary conditions are not getting validated. For example, I have taken care about 45 and 46, but I haven't taken care about 44.99. Are you getting, Shubhit, what I
yes,
mean to say? So this is the boundary condition what I need to take care about. And if this is not getting validated during the during the testing phase, I may open up the different kind of vulnerabilities. Are you getting
okay.
me, Shubhit?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So just
I'm
take care
trying
about
to get you, and I'm somewhat getting you.
it. Fine.
I'm gonna be honest with you, ma'am. Boundary testing की definition के अलावा ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं पता था मेरे को.
ओके सो ज्यादा कुछ नहीं पता था तो ज्यादा कुछ पता करने के लिए डिस्कशन करना पड़ता है एंड आई थिंक शुभित यू हैव आंसर्ड प्रीटी वेल
Ma'am, I have used most of my sense that I could.
so that is the thing whenever you go for the implementation आपको पूरा implement करना पड़ता है you need to see the application out of it I am not asking you any kind of definition ठीक है शुभित
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
so that's what you did today so there is no harm in discussion fine
Ma'am,
so
it's more of a viva, so it's just back in the head. So.
कमान मैं वाइवा में ऐसे थोड़ी पूछती हूँ कि इसका क्या मतलब है और उसका क्या मतलब है ना
Yes,
I do not go with the definition ठीक है शुभित
yes, ma'am. Yes,
but you
ma'am.
answered pretty well yeah now when you go with the configuration weakness the third question when you say so here you have written the password policies what do you mean by password policy here
Ma'am, please repeat the question.
password in the question number 3 if you see that you have written the password policies fine
Yes,
Shubhit.
ma'am.
Yeah, so can you tell me what do you mean by this password policies?
Ma'am, eight characters and uppercase, lowercase. Those are all the policies that we
Okay,
require
how
to
long the password
fill
should
the
work?
Yes, ma'am.
How long the same password should work?
As long as we are not changing it, I guess.
As long as we are not changing, or after every 1 month or every 6 months, you are forced to change the password.
Yes, ma'am. Suppose so we are supposed to change the password after some time, regularly, just so that we are, more secure than or more. We are better at security basically. We
Okay,
change it in
fine.
certain interval of time.
Uh, what about the configuration of TCP ports and internet services?
Ma'am, please repeat. Ma'am, actually your voice is breaking like
No,
a
no,
little.
configuration of TCP ports and internet services.
Uh, Ma'am, I don't know.
Fine, not a problem. And thank you, Shobit. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you tell, like, just for the knowledge?
Yeah, so when you take care about the configure, we are going to go with the types of pen testing. In the network configuration, the IDS and IPS, the firewalls. Because how exactly the traffic is getting flown from one end to another end. It is with respect to the TCP. Fine. And if you do remember the TCP model, you must have studied in the you must have studied in the network essential part, if you do remember. So every time, you see, we cannot take care about, or we can very rarely take care about when the data is getting transmitted over the network in the zeros and ones. But we can always take care about the how the data is being presented to the system. Fine, and how exactly the presentation layer is working. So if the time remains, we will discuss in detail about how the presentation layer is supposed to present the data. So this is not the part of our syllabus. That's what I was curious that what you want to say.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
Shivit, yeah, for sure we are going to discuss that. How exactly the presentation layer is presenting the data to the application layer, because majority of the things. So if you say the IDS, where the IDS is getting installed, the IDS is getting installed always at the application layer. The storage, when you say the red level, when you say the SCSI, when you say the SAN or NAS devices, where they are getting installed, they are always getting installed at the application layer. So two application layers are getting communicated over the network channel. And for that, the entire network is being built. But before that particular thing, the presentation layers are going to come where the majority of the attacks are being targeted. Fine. So if the time remains, for sure we are going to discuss this.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Sukanya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good
Yeah.
morning.
Good morning, Sukanya. Sukanya, what is your last name?
I'm Sarkar.
Yes. Yes, Sukanya. So you have written about the internet banking case study. What if I do not use the internet banking? I want to use this particular, the case, whatever you have written, or answer whatever you have written to the irctc.co.in. Do you think so? I'm going to correct, or I'm going
Ma'am.
to apply as it is? Hello,
Yes, ma'am.
are you getting what I'm trying to tell you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, whatever the case study you have mentioned,
Yes, ma'am.
fine. This particular case study is really, really good. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
If I am going to apply as it is, because this case study I have written for the internet banking.
Yes, ma'am.
If I am going to apply as it is for the IRCTC railway reservation,
Yes, ma'am.
do you think so I can apply as it is to railway reservation?
Ma'am, I have never done a railway reservation, but according to me, I think
Okay, you
when
must have
we.
done shopping. You must have done online shopping.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So can you tell me how do I the implementation is going to differ in both of them?
Ma'am, in some cases, yes, like in a bank account, we enter our account number and our other details, and if I'm doing online shopping, and if I am doing internet banking, like using my debit card or my credit card, I have to enter my account number, my card number, my CVV, and all those things. So that needs to be authenticated first by the shopping app. Then my payment will be processed. So if the payment thing, where the payment is getting authenticated, if that thing is being hijacked, so that will be a problem. Like in banking system also, when we are doing a transaction, for every page, like it's written, a session ID is being created, and that is being authenticated. So that time, if a non-legitimate user or a hacker uh, gets the session ID, my session ID, then my transaction can be hacked. So there, that can be a problem. So I think these two cases are similar.
Fine. Okay. Mm, when you take care about the similarity over here,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
how do you think so that the password policy should work in both the cases?
Ma'am, the password policies, like the length of the password.
No, that
Uh,
I understood. That I understood, Sukanya. But how should they work in both the cases? Suppose you are taking care about the internet banking as well as you are taking care about the online shopping. So my question to you is how the password policy should work. Is there any difference in both the cases for the password policy, or they are quite same? Or in same in what sense, and why are they same?
Ma'am, password policies meaning?
Password policy means when the password is going to expire, what should be the minimum length, what should be the
Yes,
maximum
ma'am.
length.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That only I was saying, ma'am. The length of the password, how
But
many
my dear
special
Sukanya,
letters.
Sukanya, just hold on. I'm not asking you the password policy. I'm asking you when you go for the online shopping or
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you go to the internet banking, is the password policy is going to be same in both the cases or it is going to be different?
No,
I
ma'am.
mean,
It is going to be different.
why do you think so that it is different?
Ma'am, in online shopping, they don't ask you to change the password like after 6 months or after 1 year.
Why is that so?
Ma'am, because this banking application is a very sensitive thing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and online shopping is not that sensitive thing. Like, ma'am, that only.
Yeah, when you take care about the sensitivity, what do you mean by this?
Ma'am, because in banking systems, like we change the password after a quite some amount of time,
Mm-hmm,
so that the password is getting authenticated every time. So a
mm-hmm,
non-legitimate user or a hacker can't hack it easily.
mm-hmm,
But in online shopping cases, they do not ask you, because maybe in online shopping there are many there are how can I there are many options, like you
mm-hmm,
can use net banking, or you cannot use net banking, you can use a COD. But
mm-hmm,
in net banking, we always do a transactions through the internet, so that is very sensitive.
mm-hmm.
So the password should be uh, changed in after some time,
Okay,
like regularly.
fine, fine. Thank you. Thank you, Sukanya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Sutirtha, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Sutirtha? Yeah. Mhm. Yes, Sutirtha. So can you just elaborate on question 1?
Question 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so input validation and boundary conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so input validation is very much necessary for any application, be it web or any other software applications too.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if we want to protect our application from a DDoS attack
Mm-hmm.
or a distributed denial of service attack, we need
Mm-hmm.
a proper firewall. We need to implement that in our web application server.
Mm-hmm.
And second point is we need to put some restrictions what the user inputs into the database.
Mm-hmm.
For example, to protect the web application from cross-site scripting.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you an example on that. For example, a user may enter in the comment section some JavaScript code, some malicious code, and get the user logs or the password logs very easily,
Mm-hmm.
by which he can easily manipulate the web application and do a lot of destructive damage.
Mm-hmm.
There is
Fine.
also
Yeah.
proper input validation is also needed on the error
Mm-hmm.
and the debugging side too. For example,
You
I
have
have
used the LDAP for the input validation. So can you tell me how the LDAP is going to work over here?
so ma'am, basically LDAP is a active directory on the server side
Mm-hmm.
where metadata is stored.
Mm-hmm.
How many users are logging in, or the timestamp, or
Mm-hmm.
how many passwords are being stored.
Mm-hmm.
Not the exact passwords, but the metadata of it.
Mm-hmm.
If a malicious hacker or someone gets hand on that active directory, LDAP directory, he may cause a lot of damage. So we need to put some restrictions on how it can be accessed, the LDAP server.
Okay. How exactly the sessions are getting created if I use the Teams? For example, if I'm using the Teams and if I'm using the Moodle, since you have used both the things, fine. So, yeah, so in that particular case, what do you think so, Sutirtha, that how session ID is getting created in the Moodle or in the Teams?
So a session ID is being created by a token from the server side, and then it is stored in the cookie on the client side.
Just
Or
hold on. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Sutirtha. Yeah, go ahead.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, when you go with the session ID for Moodle and when you go with the session ID for what you can say Teams,
Yes, ma'am. Teams.
what do you think so that how they are getting generated? Are they same or they are different?
And the session ID,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am, is the same. The session
Okay.
ID is being generated by the server side from the
What is
server,
the
and
objective of having the session ID?
yes, ma'am.
What is the objective to have the session ID?
Object session ID, ma'am, is being stored on the client side, and it
No,
is
no, but why the system is creating the session ID?
uh, for authentication, to keep the what can I say? To keep the user logged in for quite some time.
But for that, the the username and the password is there for authentication, isn't it? So in
Yes,
that
ma'am.
case, why? What is the use of session ID?
Ma'am, so every time the client side or the user is requesting for some information,
Uh-huh.
he would require to enter his username and password each and every time.
Mm-hmm.
And to save time, so
Mm-hmm.
this session ID is being generated,
Only
and
that
it
is
is,
the objective, nothing more than that.
excuse me, ma'am.
Only it is the objective, nothing more than that. to have the session ID?
Ma'am, it's a necessity. You have the session
Okay,
ID.
so a session ID is getting generated because see, whenever you go, so
Ma'am, we can use the web application without session ID too.
no,
But it
it's
is going to
not
be a lot of
suggested to
problem.
use that. The reason behind it is because the session ID is supposed to be a kind of way by which the user is getting tightly integrated with your token as well. So the reason behind that is because it is going to give you the complete confined domain, you can say, to take care about the authorization. Fine. If you do not use it, so because every time the session ID is getting stored, as we have discussed earlier, also in the memcache D service. So there is a service which is going to cache the session ID. Fine. And if you are not using the session ID, every time your username and the password is going to be there to take care about the session, because in that case, I can have only a single session. So I cannot see whenever the user is trying to log in. Just hold on, Sutirtha. Hold on. Whenever the user is trying to log in, every time the different session IDs are getting created. Are you aware of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the objective of the session ID is to authenticate user to have the different kind of services, authorized services, so that the system is aware of. Because the session ID is not the only username and the password. Session ID contains till how long the user is supposed to connect, till how long the this particular the session is going to be validated. Are you getting my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hold on for a second. Hold on. So this is the thing what you need to address, that till how long the things are going to be there, and then only my user is able to log in. Otherwise, my user is going to log in indefinitely. Are you getting, Sutirtha?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this should be not the case.
So
And that is
basically,
the
ma'am,
major reason the session
authorization, we
ID is
need the
getting
session
created.
ID.
Yeah.
So basically, ma'am, for authorization, we need the session ID.
Because the session ID, the way the session ID is getting generated, it contains the information about entire domain which the user can access.
Yes, ma'am. If the user is admin or user.
Exactly. Fine, Sudhir sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah. Swarangi, are you there? Swarangi. Tanay Prasad, are you there? Tanay Prasad.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Mm. Yeah. Yes, Tanay.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, can you give me 1 minute, please?
Sure, you open up your assignment.
No, ma'am. Some other thing, ma'am. 1
Fine,
minute,
fine.
please.
Not a problem. Varun, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So sorry.
No, I'm actually taking care about Varun right now, Tanay. Just hold on for a second.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, Varun. So I opened up your assignment, Varun, and can you elaborate on the answer of question number 2?
Okay, ma'am. The question number 2 basically is talking about access control and session hijacking authentication. Session hijack is usually important because when a user is authorized and authenticated, session ID is generated by giving a token to the client and it is stored in the client's browser. Nowadays, there is the company has a different type of salt as in a specific key to generate a session key, an ID, and recheck it once the user sends a request for any resource or any article, or if we say any transaction happens between our server and their client browser. So if a session is sniffed and the key is stolen, the other hacker can pretend to be the user and access the resources pretending that the user is legit, and the server would never know because the session is the same. But these days, to mitigate this risk, a specific type of session is generated by knowing the device's browser and the MAC address of the device. Using the combination of that, they generate a specific session and a private and a public key. The public key is stored in the session in the cookie of the client browser, and the private key is stored in the Encache Redis server, as you were talking
So,
about.
Varun, what do you mean by public and private key here? Since you are saying,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is the public and private key?
And basically, public and private key are two keys generated by the same salt, encrypting salt, and they cross-check. They only complete when they are put together. So once a public key and a private key is cross-checked, so we would know the user is legit and it is coming from the legitimate browser.
But do you think so that the public key and the private key, the asymmetric key, what we talk about,
Yes, ma'am.
this particular is always encouraged during the transmission of data over the internet?
Ma'am, it is not encouraged always, but if we talk about having a specific users having this public and private key with a specific session stored in the client's browser generated from the MAC address or the device's information, it would be more safer.
Fine, fine. What about if I use a symmetric key?
Non-asymmetric key is still very secure because it cross-checks.
Cross-checks of what?
Because the encrypted message is sent in, I think, 256 bits of encryption, and then it verifies on the back end with the private key of the server.
Okay. Yeah. Now coming back to the case study of internet banking application, how do you go ahead for the answer of question number 2 for internet banking?
Access control and session hijacking can be mitigated by having a specific token generated from the backend using the device's information. And about the access controls like in RBAC role-based access controls are used in WordPress and Drupal and everywhere. Even in an internet banking application, it is used to mitigate such risk.
Yeah, internet banking application. You must be, because the case study is being given. So in that case, you need to take care about, isn't it? Because whatever you have written, if I need to take care about the insurance domain, not the internet banking, so am I supposed to implement in the exact way the way you have mentioned?
Hello?
Yes, Varun, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so my question is, if I go for the insurance domain, am I supposed to implement in the exact way the way you have mentioned over here?
No, ma'am. A different way could be approached because a banking application would need more security and a session ID generation, because every time a user logs in, a new session ID is generated. And even if an insurance company or like you were talking about a Flipkart or Amazon's shopping services, they don't need such encryption or private key to cross check, because banking application would have a more case sensitive data. If even if I say my shopping website account is compromised, I wouldn't be in a much worry because my details, credit card details and debit card details are still encrypted with the backend of their website.
Okay, fine.
If you're saying, do I need to correct this specific case study, I would still correct it, because why to spend so much funds on security which I know the information is not sensitive there.
Fine. Thank you, Varun. Thanks a lot. Okay, we'll just take a break of 2 to 5 minutes. I will take my charger and we'll come back. Fine, all the students. So the next is Vyapak. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I will be here within 5 minutes. Fine. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm back. Hope all of you are here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So VAPT. So let me open up yours. VAPT. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, VAPT. Now consider a scenario that you need to work with the kind of application, for example, the driving license application. Fine.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And into the driving license application, you need to take care about the input validation and the boundary conditions. So now can you tell me how are they going to different from the case study what you have mentioned?
I mean, driving license application.
Yeah.
Okay, so you create an account and log in, but you don't have to upload the online your documents.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to fill your information and
Mm-hmm.
then visit the RTO office for the
Mm-hmm.
physical verification of the document. So, uh, not a lot of sensitive data is uploaded on the site.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
But
Okay.
whereas in yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
internet banking,
Mm-hmm.
the site is very sensitive and you have your money in this bank, so anyone can steal the money if it's not well secured.
Fine. So in that case, suppose I need to check whether my driving license has, dispatched or not. Fine.
Okay.
So, and so in that particular sense, what is the probability that my data can be, breached or my privacy could be breached when you take care about the driving license?
I don't think so. There will be any risk for data breach. You just simply
Uh-huh.
log in to enter the tracking number from the courier website,
Uh-huh.
or the RTO will send you a SMS regarding the tracking information.
Okay, fine, fine. Okay. Now, so fine, this is the driving application. Now, suppose you need to apply for the visa, fine, and they are going to give you the visa appointment. So, in that case, is it different than the internet banking? And, or is it different than the online, what you can say, license? How exactly the things, security and the privacy could be measured into the visa applications?
Uh, I guess, yes, ma'am. I guess because I don't think so that the website for applying visa, is not as secured as the internet banking sites.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone is trying to hack into that, it,
How do you take care about that? What to measure and what to apply and what not to apply?
sorry, ma'am, I didn't get the question.
Okay. How do you take a decision that which particular security or the privacy concept I need to apply on the application and which I need not to apply?
Okay, ma'am, on the internet banking, correct?
Mm-hmm. Any of the application, for example.
Okay, I guess on. Okay, so for that, ma'am, the two-factor authentication should be mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for example, in India, if we are going to log in into any internet banking website, it never
Mm-hmm.
asks for any two-factor authentication.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly not. You just need to enter your user ID and a password.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, if you log in into a Google account as well,
Mm-hmm.
so Google always asks for two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Or if an unauthorized system log in your account, it
Mm-hmm.
instantly sends you an email that someone has logged in on your account. Please verify that it was you or someone else. But in
Mm-hmm.
internet banking, we never get such kind of emails.
Mm-hmm.
And in some banks, like the
So in
Punjab
that
National
case,
Bank.
do you mean to
Yeah.
say the internet banking, there is, the less amount of security as compared to the Gmail?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine.
For my personal experience, in
Mm-hmm.
Punjab National Bank, if you have to make a transaction, you only need a transactional password, not an OTP.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. But I think so that it should be more secure because more data is going to be exploited if the system is being hacked.
Yes, ma'am, it should be, but right
Fine.
now,
Not a
yeah.
problem. Not a problem. Yeah. So now you have given the example of ZBot.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you just elaborate more on this? That how does it work?
Steals the customer information.
Yeah, ZBot Trojan you have given
Yes, ma'am.
attacks, types of attacks.
Yes, from ZBot steals information in the HTTP post method
Mm-hmm.
when the customer, when the user is trying to interact with the bank and sharing information.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say. So it is a Trojan, but
Mm-hmm.
what?
Yes, Vapak, go ahead.
I'm not so sure about ZBot. I'm sorry.
Fine, not a problem. Okay, coming back to question number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Configuration weakness. Yeah, can you elaborate more on this?
If for the mobile applications, if we are using a public Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes we see a pop-up on a browser to install an update or install this application, system
Okay.
update or clean your system. So these
Uh-huh.
are the malwares. If we install them, the data could and everything on our phone can be accessed by someone else, for the third-party application as well.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
those malwares attack the system, and
So how it is going to affect the internet banking? If I want to do from my mobile device, from
yes,
my, let's talk about I'm using the hotel Wi-Fi, fine.
yes.
And in that case, how it is going to affect the internet banking?
So if a malware is installed, what it does that if your phone is compromised, the malware will have access to your phone SMS for the OTP, and
Mm-hmm.
what it will do, it will log out your device, your internet banking in your device. And when
Mm-hmm.
you try to relog in again, the keylogger will capture the user ID and password,
Mm-hmm.
and the hacker will try to log in
Mm-hmm.
uh, from your login, and the OTP will also be accessed because the malware is installed in your phone. So they
Fine.
can
Okay.
log in and access the OTP anytime.
Fine. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Vapak. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Krishnan, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let me open a
Good morning.
course. Good morning. Uh, Krishnan, how your name is written, I don't know. I'm not able to find out over here. Yeah, I'm able to find out. Yes, Krishnan.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah. Can you explain your perception for the internet banking working? And question number 2.
Question number 2. Oh, okay. So first, from the question you asked about the authentication mechanisms to check access control and session hijacking.
Yeah.
So, authentication mechanism, my thought process was the authentication mechanisms. Mainly, there are 3 categories. There are more, but mainly there are 3. That is something you know, something you have, and something you are.
Uh-huh.
Now, to check access control, to attack something, do an attack, access control, we
Mm-hmm.
need to, you know, we need to have something that in this case, you just want the example, or you want me to explain?
No, I want complete explanation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So access control can be hacked only when you have something that user knows, and this in this case that's something you know, and that's passwords, that's pins, etc. And in case, for example, in the banking system, if an attacker knows a user's credentials, he can, regardless of who he is, he'll be able to access it from anywhere. So that's an attack that can be done on access control. In terms of a session hijacking, a session ID is given to the user. That is something you have. That is temporary. And if you the attacker, if he is able to find the session ID, he can do some type of replay attack, and he can use the session and maybe manipulate accounts, give a transfer his money to his account, etc.
Okay, fine. So now, can you tell me that which particular, how do I take care about the complexity of applying the guidelines when you go from, for example, the internet banking to the online shopping?
Internet banking to online shopping. Ma'am, every system will try to make the system as complex as possible. No, ma'am, not as complex, as secure as
No. I
possible.
mean to say the complexity of the access control. I'm not asking about the system design. I'm saying that how do I decide to have the complexity of the access control system and I shift my domain from the internet banking to the online shopping?
Ma'am, you're talking in terms of different types of access controls where it's rule based, mandatory.
No, I'm talking about when you apply the access control
Yes, ma'am.
into the internet banking and when I apply the access control to the online shopping.
Yes, ma'am.
How do I decide that what should be the complexity of the access control application in both the domains?
Ma'am, complexity in the sense, ma'am, is it
Complexity
the
means
balance
how
between?
rigorously I am going to apply.
Is it the balance between protection and availability? Something.
Yeah, can you
Okay,
elaborate
ma'am.
more
So,
on that?
okay, ma'am. So in bank systems, and usually user wants a good balance between protection and availability. But in case of bank systems, it's better to be on the more on the protection side, even though it might seem a little frustrating for the user. But in terms of shopping systems, it doesn't have to be that secure, even though the app you administrator won't try to make it unsecure. But if it's too secure, also the users get frustrated and the availability is lesser than the protection. So that is also a problem. So what I'm trying to say is bank system should be way more secure than compared to shopping cart.
Online shopping. Okay, fine. Going to the question number 3 for the no. In the question number 2 itself, you have said that open permission unsecure root account. What do you mean by this?
Ma'am, the weak configurations part.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Open permissions means, ma'am, for example, an attacker comes somehow gets into your system. Now you have files folders that are important in your system. You have to make sure that every user is not able to write and execute it or read it. So certain users are giving according to the classification of ma'am, that hierarchy. So if I'm an attacker and I get a user permission, like user level permission account, I should not be able to read something that's only accessible by the root account or something like that.
Fine. Okay. Unsecure protocol. What does it mean?
Unsecure protocols. Oh, ma'am. Using clear text protocols like maybe FTP, or maybe using Telnet instead of SSH,
Okay,
or
fine.
maybe using
Okay. Okay. Krishna.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Emma, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, Ahmad. So you must have, gone through the different kind of discussion, Ahmad, just now you must be listening to. Now, with this particular entire discussion, whatever you have listened and whatever you have answered, what is your perception when I go for any of the security and the privacy with respect to the internet banking first? And after that, when I realized that, okay, there is some hack in the internet banking, so where I should look at.
Can you repeat again, ma'am, the last
Yeah,
part?
yeah. So when there is a hack in the internet banking, after applying lots of things, and when there is a hack in the internet banking, where I should look at first.
Okay, ma'am. First, I will summarize whatever has been
Yeah.
discussed, then I will come to the last part.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. So the first question is process
Mm-hmm.
to process the input validation and the boundary conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So input validation is just basically the proper testing of any input supplied by the user to the application.
Mm-hmm.
So this point is very important when it comes to the security. I mean, input validation or data validation is very important when it comes to security of the application.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't sanitize or validate or check boundary conditions of the application or the data that's being supplied to the application, there can be a lot of disastrous consequences. In this specific system, that's the banking system, based on my understanding, there can be two attacks if we don't validate the input data.
Mm-hmm.
These two attacks can be the first one can be SQL injections in the system. SQL injection is just a query injection that's injected into the input data, so that if the data is not sanitized, it's not cleansed, or it's not cleared from any bad codes or all these things,
Mm-hmm.
it can inject and can manipulate the system to retrieve a data from the system.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that this improper data validation can cause the system is cross-site scripting. The cross-site scripting allows the attacker to control of the web application by injecting a malicious code into the client side of the application. So in this scenario, if the input data is not validated and the input access malicious code from the user, then the attacker may gain access to the system by injecting malicious script into the unsanitized input code. So for that reason, we have to make sure that the input data is validated, and according to these conditions, only the system should accept that kind of data, and any unsanitized data must not be accepted to the system. The second thing or the second question was access control and session hijacking. So based on my understanding, access control in the banking system, since this is a very sensitive application, there must be a clear access control mechanisms for the users and for system admins.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that is to understand the role of the user.
Mm-hmm.
And when we clearly define the role of the user, that means we must properly set access mechanism for that specific user. That means the user must not be able to access the system admin dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
And also there must be different authentications and authorizations. In this specific application, there must be, for example, two-factor authentications for the user, because the password can be known by can be exploited or can be known by other people, or can be cracked. So in that scenario, there must be another layer of security to prevent any such inappropriate or unauthorized accesses. And as we have seen some banking applications like SBI banking application or other banking applications, they have implemented different roles. I mean, different security mechanisms. For example, the first time you want to enter the application, they ask you a password and a user. Then when you access this to the banking system, to the banking application, if you want to do any, for example, if you want to make transactions, you have to again provide another authentication. For example, you have to set a password for transactions for accessing to the sensitive parts of the application. So this kind of mechanisms are used to make sure that there should not be any unauthorized access to the system. And for example, if the system is hacked or the first security layer is cracked or passed, there must be another security layer that protects the sensitive parts of the application. The second part of this question was session hijacking. As we know, session hijacking is taking over unestablished communication of a system or web application. So when this communication is hijacked by an unauthorized attacker or unauthorized user, that user can access or can enjoy the privileges of the authorized user who access it or log it in the system by using his credentials. So, for example, if this specific banking system sessions is hijacked, the person who hijacked this session can do whatever that the normal user can do. For example, they can do transactions, they can transfer money, they can change the password of the system, they can do a lot of things. So to prevent this kind of accident, the bank must implement some security mechanisms. For example, they must check location-based security check. For example, or device-based security check. For example, if the location of the user change or a new, let me say, a new place, a new location is accessed, this application, the system or the banking system must terminate this session or must invalidate this session. So that attacker cannot use the same session. Also, there must be a device-based authentication. So if a new device is accessed, this banking system by using that session, the system must terminate this session and must notify the user that there has been suspicious activity in his account.
Okay,
so,
fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
these are the first two questions. And the last one, by my understanding, there can be two things that can be exploitable in the system. One of them is connection timeouts for authentication service. So the banking system must implement a timeout connection timeout. For example, if I log into my banking system, if it's idle for some time, the session must time out, and that session must be destroyed, so that other attackers or intruders cannot use that session. So this is one of the exploitable.
Fine. But the very first place, Ahmed, let me give you one more, the suggestion The second question was that where you are going to look at very first place, that whenever the attacker is going to, attack the system, the very first place you need to understand that, okay, if someone is saying that there is an attack, you need to confirm that there is an attack. Until unless you confirm, Ahmad, that there is an attack, you cannot move it. The second thing is that you need to see the different kind of logs, whether it is a network configuration, whether it is a infrastructure configuration, that where exactly the vulnerability was there and which is being exploited.
Yes.
Are you getting, Ahmad?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you need to understand. So whenever you do the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, so the first thing you need to understand is that there are going to be the list of vulnerability into your system. The attacker may exploit any of this. So you need to address that which particular data or what is the, entire, you can say the platform which is getting exploited for an attacker, so that you can see that, okay, you are mentally ready for this particular exploitation. And if you say that, okay, there is anything else which for which you were not ready, so then you can report that, okay, this particular is thing which for which we are not ready, and it is an attack which has given this kind of loss. Fine. So the first thing, so initially, please, all the participants, please do remember this particular thing. Whenever the question is being asked that how exactly you are going to look at, so the very first thing is that what is the risk associated with this particular vulnerability? Is the risk accepted or is the risk not at all accepted? If it is accepted, so you cannot do anything about it because you are mentally prepared, okay, this kind of exploitation could happen onto your system. Fine.
Yes.
So this thing you need to address. Fine. Thank you, Ahmed. Thanks a lot.
Ma'am, before I leave, this question says, the first one says, define various possible attacks and supporting environment to encourage. So what does it mean, supporting environment?
Okay, let me, no, can you please come again with the question number 1? What do you say?
Yeah, not the number 1, it's, it says,
possible
define,
and the supporting environment to encourage the attacks in the following scenario.
Yeah.
When you say the supporting environments, what exactly the developers are making mistakes, and because of that particular thing, the attacks are happening.
Oh, okay, yes, ma'am.
Fine?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Because entire thing is being generated by developers. There are always going to be a fight between the developers as well as the infrastructure administrator, because it is just because of the developer, their lenient behavior or their poor attitude towards their job, which are going to create a problem to entire infrastructure of the system. Okay, Sadak, are you there? Del, are you there?
Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
Del, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, like, did you go through this?
Yeah, Del, let me open up your assignment. Where is yours? Del, what is your last name?
My class name?
Yeah.
No. The name of the document is. I think I had edited it the second time, so I still kept it as untitled document 1.
Okay. No. I was asking your last name, Del. Fine, not a problem. I'm able to find. Yeah. Okay. So can you elaborate on question number 1 for the banking domain? It looks like you have written quite nicely. Yeah, just elaborate on this.
Yeah. So since the question was define various possible attacks and supporting environment to encourage the following.
Del, can you be a little louder?
Yeah, I'll just check my mic volume also. It's my mic volume is. I have to increase it. Yeah. Okay. Now it's better. Should be better. Okay. So yeah. What I went on to. So I wanted to concentrate on the keyword that is supporting environment. So I wanted to create a supporting environment so that I wanted to make it very secure so that attacks don't happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about in the internet banking scenario, like I was talking about the internet banking application, where domain testing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So this in domain testing, that is testing done on the performance, functionality, and security. And the main purpose of testing the banking application is to ensure that all of the activities and functionality of the banking software run smoothly without any errors, and it remains protected. Then uh, I talked about further. If you go down, I talked about the SAML, that is the security assertion markup language, and here the key point over here is like there is the identity provider, which basically has the user's identity, and the purpose of SAML is like instead of you can the user identity is it remains with the identity provider, and whenever the service provider wants to wants to know want some authorization, then they ask the identity provider for the user identity and all. So the user doesn't have to keep on like putting a password and everything. And then I also talked about OTP verification. And there's also one more point which I could have mentioned, that is CAPTCHA, to prevent bots, because hackers use bots also to enter the site and use the services. So that's one point I could have added over
Okay.
here.
So can you just tell me, you have, in the question number 2, you have said about the broken authentication. So what do you mean by this?
Broken authentication. Yeah. So yeah, what happens is broken authentication is like it's mostly like around it's mostly talking about a weak authentication, and how the attackers try to exploit this. They can be doing this by credential stuffing, which is also known as uh, the dictionary attacks, and credential stuffing is also like can be dictionary attacks, or also known as rainbow attacks, where all the common password is stored. And brute force is basically checking, uh, trying different variety of passwords, like possibility and all. And then the last is the session hijacking, where what happens is this thing, the hacker goes and tries to get the user's cookies. So they try to get the user cookies, and from there they get the session ID. And they can be doing this by different things, like creating a malicious link so that the user clicks on these malicious links, and then they can get the cookies from there. Or if the cookie is not properly encrypted, or if they the user doesn't clear the cookies from the website, then the user might fall risk to this. Yeah.
Fine. Thank you, Del. Thanks a lot. Sayed, are you there?
So how is the you're going to mark this thing, the session, the entire document also, yeah?
Yeah. Fine. Thank you, Del. Tanay, are you there? Tanay?
Yes,
Tanay,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
all
ma'am.
set now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, Tanay. So, yeah. So can you tell me, you have written about the phishing attack.
Yes, ma'am.
Channel breaking attack also you have written. Can you explain all in the question 1?
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, in question 1, I related the question with phishing. Like,
And how
uh,
input validation is going to go with the phishing attack? That I want to know.
yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, users tend to keep their personal information nowadays as a banking details. So, what the this to using this to the advantage, the attackers can send them emails impersonating to be from reputable companies in order to get use individuals to reveal personal information such as password and credit card numbers, and they do not even therefore recognize that this information can be used against them only, and therefore, for example, relating with phishing, imagine a scenario where through phishing the user receives a sign-up form for online banking. When the user clicks on it, he lands on the clone site that the attacker has sent through the fraud email. And when filled, he will get the user credentials, which he can then use for his fraudulent activities. For example, while filling crucial information such as password, it will be visible to the attacker as there is no data or input validation such as improper or no encryption techniques, or it doesn't check for alphanumeric and special characters, or if it doesn't show if it's a weak or strong password. Also, if there is no boundary condition set, like a minimum of 8 characters or any number. So, to solve this problem, the remediations to overcome the drawbacks is that uh, giving basic knowledge about cybersecurity, such as being able to identify fraud emails, which is phishing, and providing proper input validation, such as proper encryption techniques, checking for the alphanumeric or special characters, and identifying if it's a, or showing if it's a weak or strong password, so that the user can automatically assign it.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Tanmay. Yeah. Akshay Londe, are you there? Anubhav Jain?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Yes, Anubhav. So can you go to your question number 3 and just can you explain me what have you written?
Yes, ma'am. So configuration weaknesses. Ma'am, these are the basic stuff that any application or web application should focus on the first basis, like accounts and passwords, like password policies and stuff. Like the password has to be of 8 digit, upper character, uppercase character, lowercase, numeric, alphanumeric. So this kind of thing, a basic thing that should every application should have. And for example, I use
Forget
HDFC.
about the question number 3 answer. Now suppose you whatever you have written you need to apply onto examination sector. Say there are different kind of JEE mains are happening, right? 4 times in a year JEE mains are happening. Now you need to apply the configuration, the answer of question number 3 to take care about the JEE mains examination. So what is going to be your perception, Anubhav, and how do you do that?
Okay, ma'am. So I don't actually know what JEE means. So I will take kind of
JEE mains
example.
is a joint entrance
Yes, ma'am.
exam.
I know what JEE means. I mean, I don't know what the website and.
No, the task is being given to you. We'll
Okay.
like to see what is your approach.
Okay, ma'am. So first basic thing should be the user ID and password for the login and verification of the student, and all the different types of documents submit that we have to do for the college and stuff.
No, but
So
no. Again, you do not get my question. My question is to take care about the examination. I'm not asking about the student registration. I'm asking to take care about the examination. What the JEE main server must be doing if you apply your configuration weakness to that particular application.
for online examinations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's what I'm just giving JEE mains because it is a nationwide crucial examination
Yes,
to
ma'am.
have the entrance into the IITs. and NITs. Yeah.
Okay, so it has to be a very proctored exam because it's a very big and lakhs and lakhs of student give this exam every year. So the security for that purpose has to be very crucial. All the different kinds of hacking issues have to be dealt with
No,
beforehand.
so
So
you be specific. Be specific, Anubhav. Do not be generalize your answer. Because
okay,
whenever you go with the security and privacy, everything is going to be specific to the application. If I'm talking about the security and privacy for the internet domain, for the internet banking, the same thing is not going to be followed when I go for the JEE mains execution
it's gonna be
examination. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be
So
different.
I'm just asking that how do you go for that? What is your approach?
Well, first would be the login approach. We have to make sure that the boundary testing and we have to make sure that the user ID and password logged in are proper. And after that, then comes the examination, questions and answers. We have to make sure that all the script and the back end of the examination has to be proper. And the access for that, there should be role-based access control given to the application so that the unauthorized access can be make sure that there is not unauthorized access for that matter. And
Anubhav, just two things I would like to tell you. The very first thing is please make sure that we do not go definition wise. Please. The reason behind that is because you need to apply whatever you have learned. If you cannot apply the things whatever you have learned, so there is no use of that learning. Are you getting me, Anubhav?
that's why I'm focused on the banking application. So
No. See, it's not about the bank. Any kind of application can come to you. Any kind of application can come to you. If you are aware of that, how exactly the things can be done for the banking application. The same thing could be done in a similar way for any other application because it is all about the security and the privacy. Something may go more importantly for the banking application and less importantly for the JEE mains execution. Are you getting Anubhav? So you
Yes.
need to focus on what are the things which are responsible for the internet application working in a rigorous way and which could be quite lenient when you are executing the JEE mains exam.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting Anubhav what I mean to say? See, every time you are not, until unless, if you are not at all aware of the concept, the things are different. But if you are aware of the concept and if someone asks you to apply it also, you can you can see any of the application. When you say vulnerable, so for the first thing you need to see that what is the requirement. Where you
So the
are going to
requirement for an
upload.
examination is quite simple. We don't need like a very extreme tier security for the examination. I mean, like,
Why not? What if the one student, are you aware of the questions are getting randomized? Are you aware of, you may have the problem with the privilege escalation? If the software is not working or the vulnerability is not checked with respect to the authentication mechanism, I may have the problem of the privilege escalation, isn't it? Where I can change my question paper according to what I want.
we can
As
just
simple
change.
as that. I'm the administrator of the system. I can always change my question paper. What I want. I just escalated my privileges. Are you getting, Anubhav? Please try to understand. There is no you again and again. I am saying, please, all the participants. I believe I am done with all the students. Anubhav was the last. Anyone else is there?
Ma'am, I'm still left.
Who is
I'm
there?
also left.
Who
Ma'am,
is there?
Ritik.
Ma'am and
Ritik.
Himank also.
Himang. Yeah. Ritik and Himang. So I would like to, so whatever I ask Anubhav, so can you we'll start with Ritik. So Ritik, can you tell me that what is your perception for the JEE mains? Forget about the JEE mains. Say, for example, let's go about the share trading. Fine, Ritik. Now, into
Yes,
that
ma'am.
particular case, what could be the you are going to? So you have mentioned the things with respect to the internet banking, and now you would like to go ahead and apply the similar thing to the share trading application. So, what is going to be your views? How you are going to take care about? Can you tell me, Ritik?
Ma'am, I don't know much about share trading. Actually, I'd be more comfortable with the JEE mains example.
Fine, go with the JEE mains. Yeah, Ritik, go.
Ma'am, so for JEE mains, the students are required to fill in details such as their name, password,
Again,
and
Ritik, just take care about. I'm asking the execution. I'm not talking about the registration process at all.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so for that, input validation would be required
How the input
to,
validation should go for?
ma'am,
Can you
to make
just
sure that
elaborate?
the nothing out of the what is acceptable is being entered into the input form. Um, for example, um, now I'll take another example. For example, the students' details that's going to get stored in the database. So, for example, for that they need to have some secure policies such as the mm, they should be using HTTPS instead of HTTP so that the details aren't shared with other people.
Just hold on, Himang. Just hold on. Fine. Sorry, Ritik. Fine. Let me talk to Himang. Yes, Himang. Can you tell me your
Yes, ma'am.
perception?
Ma'am, so for input validation in JEE mains, right? So, ma'am, anywhere where there's a database, ma'am, it's susceptible to SQL injection. Now, what is SQL injection? So, ma'am, and so SQL injection is basically when an attacker inputs a query into the input field and expects not expects it. It's their intention is to retrieve sensitive data from the databases, right? So, ma'am, this can be avoided by ma'am having an allow list. An allow list is basically, ma'am, it has a list of values, safe values that sorry, a deny list. A deny list is basically, ma'am, a list of values which are not allowed. So you could just put all the keywords which are used in a query in a deny list and avoid SQL injection attacks and
Fine.
other things.
Thank you. Thank you, all three of you. Anyone is left? Okay. The very first thing I would like to tell you, and all the participants, just listen to me carefully. Just you got to listen to me carefully. The very first thing is whenever you know the vulnerabilities, you know the pen testing, you know the mitigation strategy, SQL injection, preventing the database, having the encryption, having the encryption during transmission. These are taking care about the whitelist of the. These are the quite normal thing, and these are the standard things. What you need to follow. The basic thing what is missing right now is the way it is going to change from application to application. When I go with respect to the internet banking, the things for the privacy is going to be different because I'm going to take care about how much data is going to be exploited if my system is being hacked. But when I go with the JEE mains examination, again I have asked the execution. I haven't asked any kind of registration process. The first thing what you need to understand at the time of execution is the privilege escalation problem. The first thing I need to understand, what if I have given the JEE mains examination and come to him and then I realize, no, let me try to hack the system to change it. It is quite possible, isn't it? It is quite possible. So I need to see that how many can I access my system. I'm talking about the JEE mains execution. Please take a note. Internet banking I can access from my home system. But JEE mains examination I cannot access from my home system. There is a proper network configuration which allows me to take care about to take a confined domain or the confined environment which is responsible to have that particular exam to be given from the examination centers only, not from my home internet. Are you getting all my students? Hello? Am I audible, my
Yes,
dear
ma'am.
students?
Ma'am, the problem with this JEE mains example was that I was thinking what the attacker will use,
No,
the
my dear
information won't be
student, please
valuable
try
to
to
him.
understand. I have just asked you the execution of that particular exam. I never asked you the process of the registration. No, I need to
Ma'am,
take care about if I am the architect of that particular environment to see the infrastructure. So what is the first thing what I need to understand? How the network is being, I'm not allowed to give my JEE mains exam from my home network. So first of all, you need to understand, okay, I need to take care about the network. I need to take care about the vulnerability, which is if anyone is able to get the JEE mains examination center from the outside of the network, then there is going to be a problem. Are you getting my point? The second thing, I need to see the privilege escalation. I'm not supposed to do that. See, if I go with the the privilege escalation with the internet banking, the data which is getting exploited is different than the data which is getting exploited from the JEE mains. Here I can have more, the internet banking, I may suffer a different kind of data loss as compared to with the JEE mains. The severity could be quite less. But again, this is an examination, this is an important application. I cannot say that severity is quite less. Are you getting, my dear students, what I'm saying? So just make sure about apply the concept whatever the application is being given. I'm not asking what is the boundary condition. I'm not asking at all what is the input validation. That we know, that we have discussed a lot. If you want to go ahead and take care about the security as a vulnerability tester, as a career, so you need to be addressed. First is the policy document. Second is your SLAs, what is accepted and what is not as a risk. Third is if this particular vulnerability is being exploited, what could be the the data exploitation I'm going to have. Are you getting, my dear students? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so just have it. So in the examination, in the external examination, if the question comes to you based on the case studies, just make sure about you need to put your concept in a very different way to understand the case study and apply it. You cannot say at all it is a for apple. No, because the concept is really going to be same. The application differs, the importance differs, the importance of that particular functionality differs, the priority differs, the way the data is getting exploited, it differs. Are you getting? Hello? Fine. So there should not be. So many of you have given the very correct answer. Many of you have still stick to the definition part. Although I've given some of the marks for that particular definition as well, but just make sure about it. Definition is not at all required. It is being given into the book. And with the definition, you can pass the exam, but for the career survival, until unless the application is not there, you cannot. So you need to understand what could be the application for this particular concept. Are you getting, my dear students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so just change the approach, but the way you are learning. And see, if you do go for the application and if you know that how to apply on the application, for sure you are going to survive into your career as well as you are going to get the marks. But if you are just stuck on the definition part and just want to get the marks, no one can say that how much you are able to survive, because for the survival into the industry, you do require the implementation of the same concept. Are you getting, my dear students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So please take a note on to this. Fine. So let me have the attendance right now. I may be different because see, my job is to guide you that where you are going wrong, and I'm not. This is the discussion to understand the concept, whatever you have, or you are going to implement. Just take a note onto this. Fine. So let me have the attendance right now, and just take care about everyone. Please stay healthy and stay safe. It is really important to take care about our health and our eating habits. Attendance, please.
PRN8 present, ma'am.
PRN8 present. Hold on. PRN9. 15.
Present.
15.
Yes, ma'am. Present.
Yeah. 18. 19.
19 present, ma'am.
20. 24.
Present, ma'am.
29. 36.
Present, ma'am. 36.
37. 38.
38 present.
39. 40.
40 present, ma'am.
44. 47. 51. 53. 57.
53 present, ma'am.
Yeah. 57.
Present, ma'am. 57.
61. 64. 72.
Ma'am, 72 present.
73 present.
74. 80.
80 present, ma'am.
84. 86.
86 present, ma'am.
87. 88. 93.
I'm 89 present.
Present, ma'am, 93.
Excuse me, ma'am,
96.
89.
Yeah.
Ma'am, 84 also my mic wasn't working.
Fine. 103.
Present, ma'am.
96 present, ma'am.
Yes. 104. Ahmad. 105. 107. 109.
107
Ma'am,
present.
29 is also present.
Yeah.
Ma'am, 39 is also present.
Who is 39?
Ma'am, Janvi.
Ma'am, could you also say 29, please?
Yes. So all the best, my dear students. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thanks a lot. Yes, Del. Bye-bye.